The note was still taped to the fridge when I got home, a neon pink square with her handwriting, bold and sharp like always. We need to talk. I'll be back at 7. Don't be late. No, love you. No smiley face like she used to do. Just a summons. Like I was about to be called into HR. I stared at it for a full minute, standing there in my dusty work boots with a grocery bag still in my hand. The milk was already starting to sweat through the paper. I knew something was coming. You can feel when someone starts holding their breath around you. You just don't know if it'll end in a sigh or an explosion. With Kaylin, it was always both. So I waited. Didn't eat. Didn't turn on the lights. Just sat in the kitchen with the ticking wall clock and the hum of the refrigerator sounding like a countdown. She walked in at 7:12, of course, wearing perfume. Not the usual one she'd worn for years, the light, lavender one I bought her on our first anniversary. This one was sharper, sweeter, expensive. Her keys dropped on the table like they were a message. She didn't say hi. She didn't take off her coat. She looked at me like a landlord assessing a cracked window. I don't want to drag this out, she said. I nodded. My throat was dry. She pulled out her phone and read from it. Actually read from a drafted note. That's when I realized this wasn't a fight. It was a presentation. I've thought about this for a long time, she began. And I've realized that I've outgrown this version of us. But I'm giving you a choice. I didn't even flinch. I just stared at the lamp behind her head like it had answers. You have 3 options, she continued. 1. You make real changes. I've listed what that means. 2. We separate. 3. I do what I want, and we pretend this marriage is still working. That's all. She slid a second note across the table, another list. This one with bullet points. Actual bullet points. She wanted me to stop whining about my job. She wanted me to start lifting weights. She wanted me to be less soft. She wanted more nights apart. She wanted to go on a solo trip to Tulum for clarity. She wanted freedom, but still, to be married. Take a few days, she said, like she was doing me a favor. She walked into the bedroom and shut the door, like that was that. But she made one mistake. She thought I was still the man who would quietly try to meet her halfway while she was already 3 exits down the highway. She forgot something about me. I pay attention to the small things. Like the second toothbrush in her travel bag last month. Like the new password on her MacBook. Like the missed calls from a name saved as Viv. Like the second wine glass she never washed, left out when she claimed she was alone. So no, I didn't argue. I didn't ask who Viv really was. I didn't cry. I got up, picked up both lists, folded them neatly, and slid them back toward her purse. And the next morning, I started putting something else together. Something she never saw coming. Because if she wanted a choice, she was going to get one. Just not the kind she thought. The day after her ultimatum, the house felt like a rental. You know that hollow feeling when you're staying somewhere that isn't yours? That's what our kitchen felt like as I drank coffee from the mug she gave me last Christmas. It said, "Best listener." The irony burned my tongue more than the coffee did. I didn't go to work. I called in sick and spent the entire day doing something I hadn't done in years, thinking about myself. Not her. Not what she wanted me to become. But me. The guy who somehow became background noise in his own marriage. I wasn't angry yet. Just empty. You know the feeling? When you're not even hurt because the hurt's already drained out through so many little cracks over the years that all you're left with is silence. But silence is where clarity lives. And for the first time in ages, I heard the truth in my own head. She wanted me to change. Lift weights. Make more money. Be bold. Be less soft. Stop whining. But none of those demands came from love. They were conditions for a job I never applied for, husband, version 2.0. Except in this version, I didn't get to speak. I just got to perform. So instead of begging her to love me again, I started building a list of my own. I pulled out a notebook. The one she gave me years ago for journaling, though I never used it because writing your feelings down was something she'd mock behind my back when friends came over. I remember her telling someone once that I journal like an emotional hamster. I opened it and made 3 columns. Column 1. Things I've let slide. Column 2. Things she thinks I don't know. Column 3. What comes next? Under the first column, I wrote, she stopped kissing me goodbye in March. She took off her ring in May. She started sleeping with her phone under her pillow in June. She called me predictable during dinner at her sister's. She told her coworker I don't make her feel alive when she thought I was asleep in the car. She flinched when I reached for her hand last week. That last one hurt the most. I replay it often, like my touch was a chore. In the second column, I wrote, Viv is not a woman. I checked the number. It's a guy named Kalen, a bartender in Tulum. She never went to book club that Tuesday. Her GPS history said she was at a hotel near the lake. I found the text she accidentally left open once. Don't worry, he's too soft to ever confront me. Her gym bag had a second toothbrush in it, a men's razor, cologne that isn't mine. And the third column? That one stayed blank for hours. Because I didn't want revenge. I didn't want to scream or destroy anything. I just wanted her to know I saw her now. That I'd finally stopped lying to myself. That the guy who used to worship her from the shadows had finally stepped into the light. Then I remembered something. Her best friend, Myra, was having a housewarming party that weekend. Kalen was going. I wasn't invited. She said it was just girls. She even laughed when she told me, "You wouldn't enjoy it anyway." But what if I showed up? Not loud, not angry, just there. What if, instead of telling her I was done, I let her show the world who she'd become, and then walked away without a word? I started planning. Quietly, carefully. She had no idea. That night, she came home late again. She didn't even look surprised to see me awake on the couch. Just sighed and said, "Still thinking?" I smiled. "Actually, no. I'm done thinking." She raised an eyebrow. "So what? You're doing it." I stood up and said, "Yeah, I am." She grinned like she'd won. Like she was finally getting her upgraded husband. But she didn't realize I wasn't saying yes to her list. I was saying yes to mine. Kalen had no clue I knew about the party. She walked around the house that week humming songs I didn't recognize, dancing barefoot while texting people she swore were clients. The air around her was lighter, almost euphoric, like she'd already emotionally buried me and moved on. She'd started wearing more makeup to Zoom meetings and buying new clothes that still had the tags on. I caught her posing in the mirror once, biting her lip, angling her body like she was being watched by someone who wanted her. I was invisible, but I wasn't done being invisible. I made sure not to question her. I played the role she assigned me. Quiet, dependable, too soft to notice. But behind that mask, I was preparing everything. I'd already called Myra's husband. We weren't close, but I asked if I could swing by the housewarming just to say congrats. He said sure, just text before coming so he could add me to the guest list for the gate. He didn't mention Kalen. I didn't bring her up either. I needed this to be clean. The night of the party, Kalen got ready like she was going on stage. She wore a silver dress I hadn't seen before. It shimmered in the light, hugged her waist, dipped just enough at the chest to make her intentions clear. She caught me looking and smirked. "Don't wait up," she said, grabbing her bag. "I won't," I replied. She didn't notice my tone, or didn't care. As soon as her car pulled out, I waited 10 minutes, grabbed my keys, and left through the back so she wouldn't see my car if she doubled back. The drive to Myra's took 30 minutes. I stayed calm the entire ride. No music, just the soft buzz of the tires and the feeling that something was shifting in the air, something final. I parked 2 blocks down, walked the rest of the way. The house was glowing with string lights, laughter pouring through the open windows. It wasn't just girls. It wasn't even close. As I stepped inside, I didn't go looking for her right away. I wanted to absorb the energy, the curated perfection. These people weren't strangers. Most were from Kalen's office. The same people she always said were too shallow to hang out with outside of work. And yet there she was, across the room, surrounded by them. Laughing, holding a glass of something with a slice of lime. Her arm was casually looped through someone who definitely wasn't me. I recognized him instantly. Kalen, the bartender from Tulum. Viv. He was tall, tan, teeth too white, confidence dripping from his smirk. He whispered something in her ear, and she leaned into him like he was home. That's when she saw me. She froze. The smile dropped so fast it was like a switch had been flipped. Her eyes darted around, looking for a way to explain it all, as if I'd accidentally walked into the wrong room and she was the one caught off guard. But I didn't make a scene. I didn't raise my voice. I just took out the envelope from my jacket pocket and placed it on the nearest table. I'd written her name on it. Simple. Elegant. Inside were 2 things, her list, the one she gave me, and my own, rewritten. Condensed. Final. I'm not who you want, but I'm no longer the man you thought I'd stay. I turned, walked back through the room, and as I reached the door, I heard someone ask, "Wasn't that your husband?" And her voice, small, unprepared, said, "He wasn't supposed to be here." Exactly. Because I wasn't supposed to be that man anymore. Not the man who stayed silent while she drifted. Not the man who waited to be chosen. Not the man who needed her permission to exist. That night, I didn't go home. Instead, I drove to the lake, parked the car, and sat with the windows down, letting the cold air fill my lungs. For the first time in months, I didn't feel like a ghost haunting my own life. I felt alive. I felt free. And I had no idea what was coming next. But neither did she. 2 days passed. I stayed with my cousin Hank, who lives in an old farmhouse 10 miles out of town. He didn't ask questions, just handed me a blanket and left the porch light on. I slept on his lumpy couch and stared at the ceiling each night, half expecting the reality of what I'd done to finally hit me like a freight train. But it never did. Instead, there was a strange calm. Not happiness. Not sadness. Just the heavy stillness that comes when you finally step away from someone who's been draining you in slow, invisible doses for years. On the third morning, I woke up to 27 missed calls. All from Kaylin. There were also 8 texts. The first few were angry. What the hell was that? You embarrassed me in front of everyone. You had no right to just show up like that. Then came the shift. Can we please talk? I didn't mean for things to get this far. Marshall, come home. Please. Please. That word from her mouth didn't sound right. Like a foreign object she wasn't used to carrying. I didn't reply. I didn't even open them again. Instead, I pulled out my notebook and wrote a new entry. Now she wants answers. That evening, Hank's wife made us soup and we ate quietly by the fire. I think they both knew something had gone very wrong in my life, but they didn't pry. After dinner, I sat alone on the back steps with Milo, our golden retriever, the only thing I took when I left. He rested his head on my knee, as if reminding me someone still trusted me completely. At around 9:30, my phone buzzed again. Another message from Kaylin. A photo this time. It was our bedroom. The bed unmade. My side completely empty. Underneath it, she wrote, "Is this what you want?" I stared at it for a long time. And then something broke open, not in pain, but in recognition. She still didn't understand. She thought this was about who won. About who had the upper hand. She still thought I was the soft man who needed to be guilt-tripped into returning. She didn't realize I hadn't left the house. I'd left her. But what came next? I wasn't prepared for that. The following morning, I received a call from Myra. She and I weren't close. We'd only spoken during game nights or when Kaylin was too drunk to drive home and needed a ride. So her calling me directly? That was new. I answered, wary. "Marshall," she said, her voice clipped and businesslike. "I think you should know." Kaylin's version of what happened at the party isn't exactly matching what everyone saw. I stayed silent. "She told people you showed up drunk," Myra continued. "Said you caused a scene. That you were jealous and stormed out like a maniac. She's painting it like you were unstable." I blinked. I handed her an envelope and left. "I know," Myra said quickly. "I saw it. So did others. That's why I'm telling you. Because she's unraveling. And now she's trying to rewrite the story." There was a pause. Then she added, "Also, Kaylin hasn't been seen since that night. Word is, she tried calling him too. He blocked her." Blocked. Something about that word felt like a full stop in the middle of her perfect script. I thanked Myra, hung up, and spent the rest of the day thinking about how easily people like Kaylin twist the truth to stay in control. But now she was losing the narrative. The mask was slipping, and she had no idea how to operate without it. That evening, I finally replied to her latest message. It was simple. "You gave me a choice. I made it." She responded within seconds. "I didn't think you'd actually leave, Marshall. I thought you'd fight for me." Fight for her? After years of being made to feel small, like background noise? After being handed a list of conditions like I was applying for a promotion in her life? She wasn't looking for a husband. She was looking for a puppet. I didn't reply. Not this time. But I wasn't done either. Because the next morning, a letter arrived at our house. One she definitely wasn't expecting. One that didn't come from me, but from someone who'd known the truth long before either of us could admit it. And that changed everything. By sunrise the next day, I was already awake, sitting on Hank's porch with a cup of lukewarm coffee and Milo curled at my feet. The early light cut through the fog like it was trying to burn away everything fake, everything we'd pretended wasn't broken. I hadn't checked my phone again. I didn't need more frantic texts from Kaylin. I already knew the pattern: rage, silence, guilt, then desperate tenderness like she'd flipped through every page of a manipulator's playbook. But this morning, something felt different. I just didn't know why yet. Then Hank stepped outside in his boots, holding a plain white envelope. This came to the house, he said, handing it over. Courier dropped it off. No return address. I frowned, flipped it over, and saw my full name, first, middle, last, written in delicate, almost too careful handwriting. I hadn't seen that penmanship in years. I opened it slowly, and as soon as I unfolded the page, my hands went cold. It was from Daria, Kaylin's younger sister. We hadn't spoken in over 4 years. Not since the last family gathering where Kaylin got so drunk she tried to get Daria to lie about where she'd spent the night. I never pressed, but I remembered the look on Daria's face, torn between loyalty and something else. Maybe regret. But this letter? This wasn't hesitation. It was a confession. Marshall, I'm sorry it's taken me this long to say anything, but I can't stay quiet anymore. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but you deserve the truth. And I can't let Kaylin keep rewriting the story. I read the next part twice, just to be sure I wasn't imagining it. She's been cheating on you for over a year. Not just with Kaylin. There was another one, Marcus. Then someone named Drew. I don't know all of them, but I know it wasn't just emotional. I know because she used my name to cover for it once. Told you she was at my place that weekend last summer? She wasn't. My chest tightened. I remembered that weekend. I had brought her flowers when she came home. She smiled and thanked me and made love to me that night like she was grateful. I thought we were reconnecting. Instead, I was just filler. The letter continued. I kept quiet because she said you'd ruin her life if you knew. That you'd spiral, maybe even hurt yourself. She told people you were unstable. I believed her for a while. But after what she said about you at the last dinner, how she was playing the long game, and how easy it was to shape you, I realized she wasn't scared of you. She was scared of losing control. I hope you do something with this truth. I hope you leave and never look back. You were never the problem. I'm sorry I didn't speak sooner. You deserve better. Daria. I read that last line 5 times. You were never the problem. You know how long I'd waited to hear that? From anyone? The entire time I was with Kaylin, I blamed myself for everything. For not being ambitious enough, for having bad posture, for talking too much about my feelings, for crying that night we lost our first pregnancy, while she stood in the hallway on her phone, too distant to even sit beside me. And now, it all fell into place. The way she never let me speak in front of her friends. The way she mocked me when I tried to start journaling. The way she offered that twisted ultimatum, knowing full well she'd already picked someone else. Several someones. It wasn't about fixing us. It was about testing how much I'd let her get away with. I didn't tell Hank what the letter said. I just folded it carefully and slid it into my jacket pocket like it was proof that I hadn't imagined the last 10 years. Proof that my softness wasn't the weakness she always made it out to be. It was the strength that kept me from losing myself while she chipped away at everything I was. Later that day, I finally called a lawyer. Told them I didn't want revenge. I just wanted out. Clean. Silent. Swift. They offered referrals for divorce specialists, and I booked the first one available. I didn't even tell Kaylin. Not yet. But that evening, while she was likely still crafting messages that shifted blame in a dozen different directions, I sent one photo. The envelope from Daria, with her signature on the bottom corner. No words. No accusations. Just a message she'd understand all too clearly. Other people know now. You're out of places to hide. 10 minutes later, she called me. I didn't pick up. And that was the first time in a decade I heard my own silence louder than her chaos. 2 days passed before I heard her voice again, not through a phone call, but a voicemail. Her first few attempts had been the usual frantic, panicked texts, filled with half excuses, weird nostalgia, and just enough venom to keep control. I know you're being manipulated. This isn't you, Marshall. We can still fix this, but only if you stop letting other people tell you what to think. But on the third morning, the tone shifted. I checked my phone after taking Milo for a long walk through Hank's fields. There it was, one voicemail. 1 minute and 14 seconds long. I sat on the steps in the cold with the phone to my ear, heart steady. Hey, I guess you've decided not to talk to me. That's fine. I get it. You're hurt. You probably think I'm this monster now. But you should know, I'm not the only one who kept things hidden. I mean, come on, Marshall. You were never really happy. We both know that. You just stayed because it was easier. Because you're afraid of being alone. That's who you are. You need someone. And I needed to feel alive again. I'm not apologizing for that. Not fully. But I didn't want to end it like this. Just think about what you're doing. Before it's too late. She ended the call without saying goodbye. That was her signature move. Never giving you closure. always leaving the door cracked, in case she needed to slither back through it later. But she was wrong about one thing. I wasn't afraid of being alone. I was afraid of waking up next to someone who only loved the version of me they could mold. And now that I'd finally stepped out of her shadow, the loneliness I thought would devour me, it felt more like peace. Still, something inside me buzzed with a warning. Her words weren't random. They were calculated. Her attempt to reframe the narrative was growing more aggressive. And people, especially her friends, co-workers, were starting to ask questions. Apparently, Myra had already shared parts of the party incident with others. And when people caught wind of the Daria letter, everything started slipping out of Kaylin's grasp. By midweek, I received a call from my old friend Will. We'd drifted over the years. Kaylin never really liked him. Said he was too intense, and reminded her of the version of me she'd outgrown. But Will had been around since before Kaylin. He knew the before me. And when he heard what was going on, he didn't hold back. Dude, you were a ghost for years. We all saw it. None of us said anything because you kept insisting everything was fine. You'd come to poker night with that hollow look, like you were watching your own life from across the room. I wanted to argue, defend her, but I couldn't. I knew exactly what look he meant. She made you quiet, man. You used to talk about writing, remember? You wanted to publish essays. Then she said it was too soft and pointless, and you stopped. He wasn't wrong. Somewhere in all those years, I'd let go of things that made me me. Bit by bit, one small compromise at a time, until I was just a neutral shadow beside her brightness. But then Will said something that made my blood chill. I saw her dating profile. I blinked. What? She's back on the apps. Not even using a fake name. Same pictures. Same bio she used when you guys met, except now it says, finally free. No drama. Just good vibes and real men only. I swallowed hard. She's trying to spin the divorce before it's even public. Trying to frame you as the unstable one. It's damage control. He sent me a screenshot. There it was, her smile, her dress from the Tulum trip, the same flirty caption she used to tease me with years ago. It didn't say divorced or separated. It said single, like none of it ever happened. I hung up the call and stared at the screen for a long time. Not out of heartbreak, but out of disbelief at how fast some people rewrite their lives when the truth gets inconvenient. And that's when I made a choice. Not revenge. Not a public takedown. Nothing theatrical. Just truth. That night, I started writing again. I opened the very same notebook she once mocked and filled 3 pages in one sitting. Then I scanned parts of it, attached it to an email, and sent it to one person. Her boss. I didn't include the cheating. I didn't include the dating profile. I just included her list. The one she gave me. Her ultimatum. Along with the fact that she offered it while already sleeping with at least one other man. Not out of spite, but to make one thing clear. This is the person representing your brand. The next day, she was pulled from a major campaign. I didn't ask how I knew. People talk. By Friday, her profile was gone. Her name wasn't mentioned in the circles she used to dominate. Her brightness dimmed the second the truth cracked through. I didn't celebrate. There was no satisfaction in watching someone fall. But there was something else. Relief. I wasn't invisible anymore. And soon, she'd understand what it felt like to be seen by everyone. The thing about people like Kaylin is, they believe the world is just an audience waiting to clap for whatever performance they give. So when the audience goes quiet, when nobody claps, when the mask starts slipping and no one reaches to fix it for them, they panic. It didn't take long. By Sunday, I was sitting on Hank's porch again, feeding Milo scraps from leftover stew when my phone lit up with an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something in me wanted to hear how far she'd go this time. It wasn't Kaylin. It was her boss's assistant. Mr. Duval, she said politely, we're reaching out regarding the documentation you submitted earlier this week. The situation has been reviewed internally. We just wanted to confirm that the matter is considered closed on our end, and no further action will be taken against you. However, due to policy violations tied to Ms. Ka, I stopped her right there. I didn't need to hear it. I wasn't looking for her to be fired. I only wanted the truth to start catching up. But it didn't stop there. That same day, Myra called. She wasn't panicked. She was furious. Marshall, what did you do? I sighed. What's she saying now? She told everyone you hacked her accounts. That you planted fake evidence to sabotage her job. She showed up to brunch crying, claiming you're unhinged. That you're stalking her. And the worst part? Some people are actually believing her. Of course they were. Because Kaylin had always been a master at weaponizing her fragility. Cry in the right tone, tell just enough of the truth, and suddenly the narrative bends to her favor. The version where I was emotionally unstable, too sensitive, too dependent. That story had been rehearsed long before she even gave me the ultimatum. She said you were writing a manifesto or something? Myra asked. I nearly laughed. No, I'm writing my story. Well, she said slowly, she's trying to erase hers. And yours, too. That's when something dark and quiet settled over me. I realized she wasn't trying to repair her life anymore. She was trying to burn the evidence of the truth. The relationships. The people. Even me. But I wasn't going to let her light that match without seeing what else she'd already set fire to. So I did something I never thought I would. I drove back to the house. Not to talk. Not to see her. But to look. It was late afternoon. She wasn't home. The car was gone. But my key still worked. She hadn't changed the locks, because she didn't think I'd ever grow the spine to return. The second I stepped inside, it felt like walking into a theater after the curtain had dropped. Everything was polished but fake. Our photos were gone from the walls. My books boxed. My shoes, placed by the door as if I'd never really worn them. But what caught my eye was the trash bag by the office. I knew that bag. She used those only when throwing away something she didn't want anyone to see. I opened it. Inside, journals. Mine. The ones I'd hidden in my sock drawer. The ones I hadn't touched in months. Ripped. Some with pages torn halfway through. Like she couldn't decide whether to destroy them or just erase the parts where I sounded too real. Underneath them, an envelope addressed to her attorney. It was open. Inside was a draft. Not filed yet. But the words? Burned into my brain. The marriage was emotionally abusive. I often felt unsafe. My husband demonstrated unstable behaviors. I am requesting sole ownership of the house, citing mental strain caused by the relationship. I stared at that page for what felt like hours. Not just because of the lie, but because it was written weeks ago. Before the party. Before the ultimatum. Before everything. She'd planned it all. The staged list. The party affair. The blame. She'd built the exit ramp months before and left me walking in circles while she packed her escape under layers of fake concern. I took a photo of every page. I didn't touch anything else. I left the bag open, exactly as I found it, and walked out of the house for the last time. That night, I posted a brief message to a private forum we once shared with a group of mutual friends from her work circle. Just one paragraph. If anyone hears stories about my instability, my breakdown, or my behavior causing harm, ask to see the documents. The real ones. I have them all now. I stayed quiet to protect someone who never once protected me. That silence ends here. I didn't name her. I didn't expose anything beyond what was already brewing beneath the surface. But by morning, 3 people had messaged me directly. They'd heard her version. Now they wanted to hear mine. And the final piece of this story, it wasn't going to be told by whispers. It was time everyone saw the ending that she never got to write. It's strange how healing doesn't arrive like a sunrise. There's no grand beam of light pouring through your window with triumphant music in the background. No moment when the pain officially clocks out. Healing sneaks in quietly, like a friend who shows up when you're too tired to ask for help, sits beside you, and doesn't say a word. That's how the final chapter began. After I shared my side in that quiet, private post, something unexpected happened. People didn't recoil. They didn't question me like I feared. They listened. A few apologized for not seeing it sooner. A couple confessed that they'd always felt something was off in how Kaylin talked about me. One coworker even said, "You were never the problem. You were the only real thing in her life." Those words stayed with me. A few days later, I received confirmation that Kaylin had officially withdrawn the draft claim of emotional abuse. No apology, no explanation, no message. Just silence. For once, her silence didn't sting. It felt like a door closing that I didn't have to lock myself. And then, just when I thought I'd finished sorting through the ashes, something unexpected happened. I got an email from a small online publication in Vermont. Months before all this happened, I had submitted a personal essay, something raw I wrote late one night when Kaylin was asleep beside me, oblivious. I'd forgotten I even sent it. The subject line read, "We loved your submission. We'd like to publish it." I blinked at the screen. Then I read it again. They liked my voice, my words, the parts of me she used to call pointless, soft, overthought, the parts she tried to erase. I cried. Not the kind of crying I did when she broke me. This one was clean, gentle. It felt like exhaling after years of holding my breath. That night, I sat on Hank's porch again. Milo was asleep at my feet, the sky painted in soft shades of lavender and gold. I pulled out my notebook, the only one that survived her garbage bag, and wrote something simple on the first clean page. I'm still here. I still exist. And for the first time in years, I feel like myself again. Kaylin? She's gone from my life now. Not in a tragic way. Not with drama. Just gone. A chapter I've closed without anger. I don't hate her. I don't love her either. I just know her now for who she was and for who I tried too long to become for her. But me? I'm starting over. I've rented a small place on the edge of town. Nothing big. Just enough space for me, Milo, and a writing desk by the window. I go on long walks. I drink better coffee. I talk to Will again. I've reconnected with people who knew me before I became invisible. And every day, I write. Because I still believe in softness. I still believe in kindness. But now, I believe in myself too. And that is the ending she never wrote for me. I wrote it myself.